In this video, we're going to do 8.07 Ripple. All right, so I already have it downloaded and opened up in DrRacket, so let's just go through it. So problem A, it says design a world program that animates a water ripple spawning where the user clicked. If the user clicked, spawn a new smaller ripple with a radius of 0, and ripples, they keep getting larger over time, so that's going to go back out again. All right, so call your compound data definition ripple. Make it so the ripple radius growth grows 4 pixels per tick. And it should look like the following: circle expanding over time. All right. So let me just copy and paste this. There we go. So it should look something like this, right? So if the user clicks, it's going to draw another expanding circle to sort of simulate a water ripple. And let me just run this off to the side here so I can show you guys what it looks like. All right. So the blue background is the water, and then that expanding outlined circle is the ripple. So if I click around, it spawns new ripples. Whee! Right? Note that there can only be one ripple at a time. So if I like spam kick, right, it's gonna replace the ripple every time. All right. In a future video, we'll go over how to have multiple ripples, but this is just the limits of what we have for now. All right. So hint: you can use a blue background and a growing white outlined circle to make it look like a ripple. Hint 2, if you're struggling, first try to animate a growing white circle on a blue background first, and then add mouse interaction later. Alright, so anywho, pause the video and try to work through the solution on your own. I'm going to go over spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. Alright, since this is a world program, we are going to need to do our domain analysis. Alright, so here's my circle, and as you can see, the user clicked here, and it just keeps growing the circle bigger and bigger over time. So here are my constants: the width, the height, the background, and the ripple growth. Changing information. The X and Y, when we click with a mouse, that's where it changes. And then the radius just automatically keeps growing. So we're going to need the mouse, right, to click and then spawn the ripple at that mouse X and mouse Y position. And then on tick to increase the radius over here. And then of course, draw it on the screen. All right, so let's just map our constants back into code. So width, height, background, and ripple growth. So define width, we'll say, 500, define width 500, define height 500. We're going to say define VG is going to be an empty scene of width, height, and this time we're going to make it the color blue to sort of, have it look like water. All right. Next is the growth speed. So we're going to say ripple growth is, let's say, 4 pixels per tick. All right, so that's all the constants. Now let's move on to data. So pause this video and try to work the solution on your own. I'm going to go over spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so for this step, we need to call our data ripple, right? So it says call your compound data definition ripple. So what do we have to represent? Well, the changing information, right? A ripple has an X and a Y position. So where it is in terms of X and then Y, right? And then the radius as it expands outwards. All right, so we're going to need to define a structure definition called ripple, and it's going to need an X and Y coordinate, and then also the radius of, the circle that it grows with. All right, so let's see, we're going to need ripple is make ripple, but you have to give it a number, and then natural for the radius. All right. Next is the interpretation. So X is horizontal position in pixels. Same with Y, and same with the radius. X, Y, radius. All right. Radius is radius of circle ripple in pixels. All right. So next, let's move on. Let me just check myself off so you guys can know where I'm at. That's the interpretation step done. Next, we're going to write all the accessor signatures again. So let's see, ripple-x, right, is going to consume a ripple and then produce a number. All right. Same for the Y, and something similar to the angle. But in this case, for the angle, it's going to produce a natural number like so. Right, so that is the signature part done, let's move on to the data examples. So define R0, make a ripple. So this is a ripple that starts at top left corner with a radius of 0, so it's gonna be like nothing, right? So let's do another one here. So copy and paste this. So R1, let's put it at 200, and then we'll say 100, and then this time we'll say the radius is length 20. All right, so ripple that starts at 200 and x, 200 y's. Ripple at 200 x of 200, y of 100, and then at a radius of 20, like so. All right. So that's mostly enough examples for now. Let's just keep going. So there we go, a template. All right. So any function, just outline anything that processes a ripple has to probably take apart its pieces. That's going to be most useful. So ripple-x of the given ripple, we're probably going to want the y, dash y of the given ripple, and then of course the radius. So radius of the given ripple. All right. So that is the data step done. All right, now let's move on to functions. So let's go back to our sketch. Again, pause the video and try to work through this step on your own. So we're going to need on mouse, on tick, and to draw, right? So we're going to need on mouse. So we don't need stop when, basically. All right. So again, this problem can be a little hard if you, use on mouse and on key. So we could do a simpler problem first and then do the mouse event later. So let's kind of do that first, right? We're going to start with on key, not on key. We actually don't even need on key, so I forgot to delete that. Kind of missed that. So we're going to ignore mouse for now, and we're just going to focus on the simple thing, which is just to have an expanding white circle on a blue background. And then we'll add mouse interaction later, right? Because the only difference is that, when we click, we just move that ripple there, right? We spawn a new ripple there. All right, so now let's focus on the onTick function. So before we do that, let's just, fix all these signatures because they're not going to consume a world state anymore. That world state is now renamed to ripple. All right, so let's just replace, next, just only the signatures, like so, next, like so. All right, and I think I messed up here. It should be WS. All right, let me just Control I to re-indent everything, like so. Okay, so let's move on to the onTick now, since that's on the to-do list. So this produces a ripple from a ripple. So pause the video and try to work through the onTick function. In fact, I'm going to make it a little easier by saying, it's going to be grow ripple is the purpose of this, right? Because that's the only thing that happens automatically, right? So, when we click the mouse, that happens once, only when we click. But the ripple itself, right, once we click, the ripple itself is going to keep on expanding over time. So that signifies that this is the onTick's job, right? It's just to keep growing the ripple. All right, so pause the video and try to work through the solution on your own. I'm going to go over spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so let's go over how to make the tock function for this. So there we go, we grow ripple. And this function's purpose, all right, so we have the signature next to the purpose. So produce the given ripple with increased radius. All right, with radius increased, that sounds a little better. Increased, all right, so signature, purpose, stub. So this has to produce a ripple. So let's just do that. So we'll just stub this out to be make ripple 0, 0, 0, right? All right, so now let's just write our examples. Check expect, grow ripple of, let's do the 0, 0, 0 one, so 0, 0, 0. So what do we expect here? Well, we want the ripple's radius to grow by the speed of, the constants that we made. So it's going to be 0 plus whatever, what is the constant name? Ripple growth. So it's going to be 0 plus 4, and that's just going to be 4. But let's just use the constant variable here in case we want to make it go faster. So there we go. And let's do another one here. All right, so let's say the ripple is, let's say, half of the screen. Or what is half? I'm tempted to make another constant here, right? So let's just do that. Define center x / width 2. We're not going to use this constant anywhere other than examples, right? But hey, that's fine. All right, so we're going to place it at center x and center y. Center y. And we'll say the ripple is of, let's say, it's already like, I don't know, 10 pixels. All right, so the x and y stay the same, right? We expect to produce a ripple at the same x and y coordinates, but its growth, right, its radius has to grow by 10. All right, so let's just run this against the stub, make sure there are no typos or anything. Check expects 2 arguments, but only found 1. So here's the first argument. Where's the second argument? So I guess this must have been 1 too many inside the parentheses here. So that's the first argument. So let's give it the second argument. And likewise, do we have this issue here? First argument, there is no second argument, so must have nested this in too much. So let me just take it out and make it the second argument. So it was 2 nested inside the wrong parentheses block. Now we have 1, 2 arguments for check expects, but only found 1. All right, so we fixed that problem. So let's just keep going. And we have mismatches, but hey, no other errors. So actual value 0, 0, 0 differs from 0, 0, 4. This second error is kind of interesting though. Oh, it's because 0, 0, 0 also doesn't, yeah, I was just checking the stub against the this ripple right here. All right. So now really pause the video. Let me just grab the template. All right, and comment out the stub. There we go. All right, so now really pause the video and try to work through this solution on your own. I'm gonna call it square ripple. This should be all the mental scaffolding needed to solve the problem. I'm gonna go with spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so I'm gonna assume that you guys took a good swing at it. So we know that this function has to produce a ripple, so we're gonna have to call the make ripple, all right, in the way outer part of this function. And let's see, the x and y stay the same, so like so. So we're just going to take the ripples x and y. All right, so we're already doing that. We're on our way. But what about the radius here? And I spelled this wrong, right? Ripple, the template. So let me try to fix that. So there we go. There we go. All right. So what do we do with the radius? Well, it looks like we just incremented by 4 in this second case, right? So produce a ripple with the incremented ripple growth. All right. Growth. And as we can see, it should pass all the tests. And so they do. All right. So now let's produce the images of ripples. So try to work on the render function. All right. So pause the video. I'm going to go with spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right. So I'm assuming that you guys took a good swing at it. So signature, what is the purpose of this? Well, it's to draw the ripple, draw the given ripple with the x and y coordinates with the given radius on the background, right? That's a very verbose way of saying it. All right, so stub this out. This has to produce an image, so we can stub this out to an empty image for now to run against our test. So check expect. All right, render, we're going to say a ripple, right? So make ripple, we're going to take this one. So, you know, a ripple at the center of the screen, that is 10. All right. So what do we want to see, right? Let's sketch out this image. So we want to do a place image with the ripple. So the ripple looks like a circle, and it's going to need the radius. So we can see here that the given ripple that we're passing into the render function is 10, right? And it's going to be an outline of white, right? It's not going to be a solid circle because we don't want, we only want, these sort of outlines of the circle. All right, so next is the x and y. So we just want to place it at center x and center y, right, wherever the ripple's x and y is. So center X, center Y, that's wherever it was. And then on top of the background. All right, let's do one more for good measure. So let's do it at the, let's see, we'll do it at the top right, or the top left. And we're going to say it's going to have a ripple of, 25, 24. All right, so this is the radius of the ripple, and it's being placed at 0, 0, so the top left corner. All right, so now let's run it and see what it looks like. Empty image is not defined. Did I spell that wrong? Empty empty image. All right, so let's just look at the mismatches here. Hopefully there are no errors, and there are no errors. So as you can see, there's a very small ripple, and there's another very small ripple on the top right, top left. Hopefully that picks up on the recording, right? But it should grow over time, as we're going to see shortly. All right, so now really pause the video. Let me just grab the template really quick and use it as a baseline. Comment out the stub. All right, so now really pause the video and try to work through the solution on your own. I'm gonna go over spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so hopefully that was, all the mental scaffolding needed. So we have render, we have to produce an image. So let's just use our examples over here that we sketched. So it's gonna be place image of the given circle. All right, and we want to take the radius of the given ripple. All right, and it's going to produce outline and then a white. All right, and then place it at, wherever the X and Y of the ripple is at, and then the background. So BG. And if we run, we should see the test passing. But now let's run the program. Main make ripple center X, center Y. So that should spawn a ripple at the center of the screen that keeps going. Oh, it needs 3 arguments. So I'm going to say it starts off, as no ripple, and then it'll just grow slowly from there. Whoa, like so. All right, so notice we click and it's not spawning it at that position. So now let's go do the harder problem, right? It's a little harder of handling spawning where the ripple is in terms of, when we click the mouse. All right, so pause the video and try to take a good swing at it. I'm gonna go with spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so we're gonna need the on mouse clause. So let's just comment that out, and we're gonna map it to a handle mouse function. Handle mouse. All right, let's just grab the template for the handle mouse function from the website. So let's see, there we go. We can also write it on our own, but hey, since it's here, might as well use it. So handle mouse, and there we go. All right. So the world is going to be ripple now. There we go. All right, so so again, pause the video and try to work through the htdw steps here. All right, so it's purpose. So that's the signature next to the purpose. So the purpose is produce ripple when clicked at the mouse, at the given mouse X and mouse Y coordinates. All right. Otherwise, if we don't click, right, if we move the mouse, we don't want to do anything, right? We just want to spit that same ripple back out. All right. So now let's just write some examples, right? So we could stub this out. It has to produce a ripple. So we can say something like so. Let me think. Yeah, I'll just do this and then comment it out. So like so. All right, and let's see. I want to stub this out to, we could do, make ripple 0, 0, because at the end of the day, one more 0 for the radius. At the end of the day, it has to produce a ripple, right? We always have to abide by the signature. All right, so let's do the same for here. We'll do this as the stub for now. And if you define this as a constant, you could have used that variable there too, but I don't want to scroll up. All right, for time purposes of this video. So check spec, let's write some examples. So given that the ripple is, let's say, at, we'll just do make ripple 0, 0, 0. And then let's say the mouse is at like 200, 100, and we clicked. So what is the mouse event for clicking again? Well, let's just go back to the documentation. All right. And look up the mouse event here. So mouse event is one of these. So let's see, button down signals that the user has pushed a mouse button down. So it's button down, button dash down. So that's already here in this template. All right. So for everything else, like dragging the mouse or, leaving when it, leaves the canvas or into the canvas, we don't want to do anything. So we can just bind that to an else right here. All right. So there we go. So when we do a button down here, right, we want to produce a new ripple at the given X and Y coordinates of wherever we clicked. So we just clicked and the mouse is at 200, 100. Therefore, we want to produce a ripple at 200, 100. Also starting at 0 because it's going to grow starting from 0 and it's going to keep growing by 4 pixels per tick. Let's do one more example. Let's say we move the mouse. That doesn't matter, right? So we move the mouse and let's say it's at 1, 2, 3, let's say 2, 3, 4, and then it's 20, right? If we move the mouse, we don't really care, right? We don't want this ripple to change in any way other than that it's increasing by the radius right over here, right? And that's the job for the onTick function. All right, so pause the video now, right? Really pause the video because there should be all the mental scaffolding needed to solve the problem. I'm gonna go for spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so I'm assuming that you guys took a good swing at it. So we might need the template here for the ripple, right? We do want to take it apart. So here we go. So there we go. So let's just replace both of these like so. And then like so. Push this onto a new line and then Control I to redent, much more nicer. All right, so when the mouse button is down, right, we want to make a new ripple, right? Make ripple because at the end of the day, this has to produce a ripple. And we don't really need the X and Y of the current ripple, right? So, 0, 0, 0. Right? We don't care about these zeros. We're saying, hey, you have to be the mouse's X and the mouse's Y. So Big Bang is going to give us the mouse X and the mouse Y. And we're going to say, hey, the ripple is now there. So mouse X and then mouse Y. So we don't need the Y of the ripples. But we do need its radius when we click the button down. No, actually, when we click the button down, we spawn, it at 0. So we don't really need, the radius either. So we use none of the properties. It's completely fine, right? We're just laying out the pieces, so we might use them. And let's move on to the second case. So what do we move the mouse? If we move the mouse, nothing matters, right? We don't care. We want the ripple to stay the same. So we're given a ripple, do WS, and we just want to produce the given ripple out. So, just spit it back out. So there we go. I'm going to rename this to what did I call it? RP. All right, so rename WS to RP. It's a better initial name to represent the world state. All right, so now we run this. All the tests should pass. And so they do. So now let's just change the comment for, start world with. We'll say, always start this can be anything. We'll just do main make ripple. So that always spawns it from the top left corner, but we can always pass in center X or center Y if we want it to, by default spawn a ripple at the middle. But this by default spawns one at the top. And if we click around, it spawns the ripples at where the mouse is, like so. All right. So a challenge problem is, so notice that, we have to call this function main 0, 0. We have to spawn one ripple at the start, right? So, we'll say at the center X, center Y. All right. Yeah. So no matter what happens, so I didn't click anything. It has to have a default ripple at the beginning, right? But what do we want it so that, we don't want anything at the beginning, right? Well, I guess we could put the X and Y at a negative. No, it's eventually going to grow. We can put it at like negative a billion and then, negative a billion for the Y also. And then, negative a billion for the radius. That's one way. But another way would be to restructure our data definition right here, right, to be an enumeration of a ripple, right? So that means that we have to do something like, hey, ripple is one of false, right? That means no ripple. And then, you know, make ripple this one right here. All right. All right. So we'll say maybe ripple. That's what we'll call it. All right. And, you know, we had to change the signature. So that's going to be the new world state. And our hand on mouse is going to have to process, you know, what happens when it's false, right? If it's false, don't do anything. If the world state is false, don't draw anything but the background, right? We would have to need a conditional here for this render, and then a conditional here for this ripple, right? If it's false, don't do anything, right? The functions are going to look like this, right? It's going to be templated like so. Define, we're going to say maybe ripple temp, right? And it's going to be maybe ripple, so I'm going to call it MRP, all right? And it's going to be one of false or make ripple, right? So this, you know, again, represents no ripple. And since this is a one of, we need a con with the two cases of the one of. So we're going to say something like false, and then the given ripple, right? We'll test it, and else because this is the second case, right? So we don't have to test whether, you know, who you are. Are you a Boolean or are you a ripple, right? So again, this could be Boolean as well, right? It can be like that. All right, so like so. In fact, I think it should be Boolean Don't make it false So this would be, you know, the template that you would need to fix all the other functions to handle the case of what happens when there is no ripple and we want to start the program with no ripple. Because again, it's always going to start off with a ripple, right? And not clicking anything, and like so. But anyways, that's just a challenge problem. Don't fret about it. But I challenge and encourage you to do it because we're going to see this, right? We're going to see this in the upcoming videos. But that is essentially 8.07 ripple done. Thank you for watching, human. If you wish to interact with more of your kind, join our Discord linked in the description or on screen. If you want to aid in my quest for world domination, consider hitting the sub button. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it, thumbs down if you didn't. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, fire away below. Also, check out the annotations on screen for the next relevant video.